All right, hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again to the podcast. This is Dan Krull, and this is episode 11. On episode 10, I talked with John DeLeon, the former standout athlete in the early 90s and son of Al DeLeon, their legendary wrestling coach at Britt and West Hancock. We had a great time honoring his dad and his legacy. The first 10 episodes have almost 3,700 views, so thanks again for watching and tuning in. Today, though, I have a father-son combo. As you can see on the screen, the Goepels, Stacy on my left and Seth on my right. This is the second father-son duo I've had. The other one was episode 6 with the Timmermans, Jim and Mark. Seth and Stacey are former West Hancock athletes and current football coaches at West Hancock. So thanks for coming on with me, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate everything you're doing for the Sanger legacy
Thanks, Dan.
and West Hancock athletics. Appreciate it.
I'm excited for this one. Before we get to them, though, I have a couple sponsors. The first one is my brother, Eric Krull. Eric and Seth are friends from growing up, so Eric wanted to sponsor this episode and plug his business. As you can see behind me, he works for Ag Performance in Buffalo Center. Ag Performance is the leader in both conventional corn and conventional soybeans. If you're wanting more money in your pocket, contact Eric at 515-341-3361 or Jim Leggy over in Duncan at 641-860-0590. That's Ag Performance of Buffalo Center and surrounding areas. And then my long-term sponsor is Michael and Brianne Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. They have locations in Britt, Kanawha, Clarion, Belmont, and Dow's. Mike is a 1998 graduate of West Hancock, and his family's been privileged to care for the communities of Britt and Kanawha since 1977. You can go online, find them at ewingfh.com, go to Facebook, or give them a call at 843-3839 or 762-3211. That's Ewing, I keep saying their name wrong, Funeral Home and Monument Company. I have a couple episodes upcoming that I need sponsored still, so feel free to message me if you want to sponsor an episode. Real quick here, let's catch up on what's going on in the summer sports world at West Hancock. We'll start with baseball. The baseball team is now 3-6 on the year. Last night they lost to Lake Mills 6-2. Since my last episode, they've lost to Forest City and Garrigan, but they beat North Union and Rockford, each by a run apiece. The one that stands out to me, they won 25-24 against Rockford the other night. That was kind of a crazy score. They scored in every inning and ended up eking that one out. And the next week they play at Eagle Grove, at Osage, home against Garner, and then at North Union. If you want specific dates, you can always go to Varsity Bound to check out their schedule. The softball team is currently 0-9. They lost last night to Lake Mills 15-1. They play the same schedule as the boys, so the teams they've most recently played and lost to would be Lake Mills last night, Forest City, Garrigan, North Union, and Rockford. There was a nice article in the Globe or the Britt News Tribune about Cameron Eccles and the team that they're getting things going. Go ahead and check that out and support the Eagles. Get out to a few games. I know you guys have probably been to a few with Shelby playing on that team. So, and also the school has begun their fundraising efforts to build a new greenhouse. So contact the office at the school if you want to find out how to help raise money for that project. And then, as always, why I do this is because the Sanger Legacy Fund, it was created to honor the late great Bob Sanger and his wife, Mrs. Linda Sanger. They both taught and coached at Britt and West Hancock for over 50 years and impacted thousands of lives, including us three on the screen here. The Legacy Fund raises money to help the communities of Britt and Kanawha, and more specifically the West Hancock School and the athletic programs and all the activities. Please consider giving to the Legacy Fund. You can go to sangerstrong.com to donate. You can also automate recurring payments if you'd like to automate your giving. And thanks as always to Alex DeWard for making Sanger Strong an easy site to give. And I talked to Kevin Sanger a couple weeks ago. He says giving has been up steadily in this last quarter. He gets quarterly updates. And we just want to thank everybody out there who's been giving to the Legacy Fund. And especially tonight to Eric Krull, Ag Performance, and Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company for being the most recent sponsors. And then also we have a raffle for the Coach Sanger cornhole or bags boards that Kirk Kopachik has donated. I'll give that information at the end and it'll be on my write-up as well. All right, enough of me talking. Let's get to the Goepels here. This is going to be a 3-part episode. Part 1 will be Coach Goepel, Stacy's glory days. Part 2 will be Seth's more recent glory days. And then part 3, we're going to talk about their coaching at West Hancock currently, and then we'll obviously talk Coach Sanger, and we want to honor Coach Perkins a little bit tonight as well. All right, so Coach Goepel, I told him before we started recording, you were my coach, so I always just go by coach. So you'll be coach, Seth will be Seth, and I know you're both coaches, but you were my coach. So that's how I'll kind of address you. So, Coach, what are you up to these days? How's the family? How's the job? What are you up to?
Good. Got Seth and Camille are in town, and got three grandchildren now, and two grandsons and a granddaughter, and things are going good. The wife works in town. I'm working at the school yet. Going 20 years on coaching, and I've been buildings and grounds and transportation director now 10 years, and it's always busy nonstop. So
Yeah. 10
everything's
years.
going good.
Yeah. That's crazy. You've been doing that for 10 years already. I didn't think it was
Yeah.
that long. So,
Yep.
yeah. I was at the school last year, and I was amazed how nice it looks with kind of the renovations and some of the changes made, and everything looks sharp. So,
Yeah, we're doing a lot of renovations. We're doing the South boys and girls locker rooms now, the ones that are just north of the gym.
okay.
We're doing those right now. So those are going to really look nice to start of the school year.
Nice.
So
Awesome. Yeah, so we're going to talk, like I said, kind of mostly football, but kind of your upbringing and the seasons you played for Coach Sanger and Coach Perkins. So before we get to football, though, what was it like growing up in Britt in the mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s? Because you graduated in 93.
I look back and there's just so many good times. I think back, we didn't have cell phones then, so we were pretty a close knit group. I mean, I think back, especially with football team and the guys that I played with, we're all good friends. We all backed each other's, other up, and we're just always there for each other. And it was just a close knit group. And I'm talking back more in my sophomore, junior, senior year. I can kind of remember those a little bit more. But just thinking back of when I was working out in our old weight room, you'd see Kevin Sanger in there, and you'd see some of the guys that I looked up to, and I still look up to. I think it was just a different time. We're talking 30 years ago, so I think it was, and everybody's going to say this, even our parents and grandparents are going to say it was better times back when, and I can see where they're coming from now. Looking back now at my age and looking back 30 years ago, it was different times, but I think it was really good times compared to what some of these kids and what we're facing right now in today's society.
Yep. Technology especially. Like, this is great, we can do this, but at the same time, yeah, not having to be attached to a phone all the time was a good thing as well. Yep. What were you, you're a car guy, what were you driving back then? Because I know cruising Main Street was kind of
Believe it or not, my dad got his grandmother's car. It was an old 54 Ford. I drove that around a lot. I had just a 6-cylinder in it. And then my first car I bought from my neighbor was a Gran Torino Sport. Just, if you know Seth and us about stuff, I had a Gran Torino Sport with a big block in it, and it was a rusty piece of junk, but it was fast.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you, like I said, you graduated in 93, so that means your freshman season of football was 89. And if anyone knows anything about the history of our school, 89 was the first year West Hancock was West Hancock. Before that, it was just Britt, before we consolidated with Kanawha. What was that like? Because you kind of were right in the thick of it. Your freshman year was right when we merged. What do you remember about the consolidation?
I remember the Kanawha kids having a really tough time merging. I remember some of them older guys that would have been seniors that year, and they're coming to Brett, and they didn't like it. I wouldn't say that they were fist fighting, but there were some times where they were going to want to fist fight us after practice and things like that. It wasn't good to start. But of course, Coach Sanger and Coach Perkins, we got everything worked out. They got everything, everything ended up peaceful and everything went all right. But it was tough. It was tough for the Kanawha kids, and I think it was tough for us Britt kids too. It was Britt football. Now we're having Kanawha join us, and it just didn't seem to jive with all of us at that time. But we got through it, and we've been West Hancock from here on out, and it turned out well, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's usually, I think, tougher on the community and the parents than the kids sometimes. That
Yeah.
They're losing that identity. But yeah, kids usually bounce back a little quicker, and we're pretty good at sports overall, so I think that always helps. You have some success in there, that seems to help a little bit. So we're gonna kind of go through your football years, but before we do that, did you play other sports or were you just football when you were
You
in high
know,
school?
I wrestled a little bit, but if Kerry Meyer happens to be watching this, he was a two-time state heavyweight runner-up, and he hadn't wrestled before. And I think it was my freshman year, and he didn't know what a full Nelson really was. And he cranked me in that full Nelson a few times. And I think I ended up telling Coach De Leon I was just going to concentrate more on football. And he did. He screwed up my neck pretty good. I know I
Yeah.
did wrestle a couple varsity matches for Travis Hagen, but I did not do much other than football, lifting weights. And I was in track. I was a fat boy, you know.
Yeah.
Lifted a lot of weights and just now I regret that I didn't do more. But football was my thing, and lifting weights was really my cup of tea. I loved it. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
Yeah, I'm down here in southern Iowa, and I've told people about the fat boy thing where I'm like, we'd have 10 to 20 kids sometimes go out for track, but they never actually participated in a track meet. They just ran and lifted, and they're like, why would you do that? And I'm like, because Coach Sanger pretty much said, see you at track in March, and you're like, yeah, yes, sir, I'll be there. So that's how
correct.
it was. Yeah, that's how it was for me.
Absolutely right.
Anyway. So, yeah, so your freshman year was, like I said, 1989. When we merged. Britt and Kanawha made West Hancock that year. We were 6-2. We did not qualify for the playoffs. And looking up in the record book, that was the first time since '83 that we did not make the playoffs, and it was the last time since until 1998. So that '84 to '97 run was a pretty impressive run. Some championship games, a championship. So '89 was one of those years that just feels like with that consolidation, maybe it was like one of those weird, awkward years where there was a lot going on. But you didn't have any stats for that varsity season of '89. Did you play any varsity, or were you strictly JV as a
No,
freshman?
I just on this, we got on the sidelines and strictly JV. We had a great season. I can't exactly remember, but I think we might have only lost one or two games JV. I'm thinking it was maybe one.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good team, you know. I know we went undefeated, I believe in '90 in JV. So, you know, I'm trying to think back. It's been a while. So,
Yeah.
especially freshman year, freshman year it just seems to fly by. You're just kind of learning and you're scared. And obviously some good times looking up to those older guys, but I just, I don't recollect as much my freshman year as I do sophomore, junior, senior year, of
Yeah.
course.
What was it like with Coach Sanger as a freshman? Were you scared, nervous, or just kind of, here we go?
You knew the legacy even then, you wanted to do well for Coach Sanger and Coach Perkins. And yeah, I mean, I think all of us freshmen were nervous. It was, I think that's for everybody even today. I mean, the kids coming in now, I think they're nervous. They want to do well. They don't want to screw up, and they don't want to make the upperclassmen mad,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that was the way it was for everybody. But yeah, I remember being nervous. I mean, I think that's just nature, being nervous when you're that young coming into a program that's so well established and so well known that you want to do well.
Yeah. Yep. We were definitely building at that point because
Yeah.
'84 was that first playoff year besides the '73 championship team, and then it just turned into kind of a monster at that point. Just playoffs every year, going to the
Yeah.
dome most years.
Yeah.
So
86 and 87 when I was like in 6th, 7th grade, those years going to the dome. I mean, that was awesome, watching the Finches and everybody, those guys are just unreal back then,
yeah.
and you really looked up to those guys.
Yeah. Yep. The next thing on my notes was kind of the motivation piece. You said you lifted a lot, focused on that. When you were playing JV as a freshman, was there a lot of incentive or motivation for you to get to that point where you would play varsity in the near
Oh
future?
yeah, I think that was everybody's goal. I know Coach Timmerman might have been my junior year or something, starting junior year, and I said, I might have screwed up in a practice, and I said, I'm going to show you that I can do it, and he brought that up, I think, end of senior year at our banquet. He said something about it, and that I proved my point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was always a goal. I mean, I started JV as a sophomore, of course, and then I just wanted to keep getting better each year, you know, and working to get better.
Yep, definitely. Yep. And so your sophomore year, like you said, was 1990. Varsity was 7-2. You thought you were maybe undefeated as JV.
Yeah, we were undefeated in 90 JV. I know that.
Yep. The varsity lost to Garner in the regular season, and then North Iowa in the playoffs, 13-12. And that's one, as a Buffalo Center guy, I still hear about on occasion from some people up there saying their only playoff win was against West Hancock. I'm like, that hurts. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, and I remember that game on the sidelines, and you know, talking to Hagen and some of them guys. That's pretty disappointing, you know, time for them, and it was heartbreaking. You know, even as a sophomore, I was heartbroken for those guys. You know, watching them guys coming off the field, and it was just that we'd lost that game. And I remember there was snow on the ground, I believe, that game too, and it just, you know, the setting wasn't right that night for some, you know, just as it happened in the future for us, the setting wasn't right in 91 either, first round. So, you know, it was tough as a sophomore, even just to watch them. You know, I didn't get to play that much varsity at that time, but felt for those guys, felt for you know, we were a team even as a sophomore, and I just really felt for those seniors when they were coming off the field. That game was that was a heartbreaker.
Yep. That's sounds eerily similar to my sophomore year. It was your first year coaching at the Dome against Dyke New Hartford in the quarterfinals. That was one game I didn't play in either because I was just a sophomore, but it was like we had that game won 10 different ways and we found the one way to lose it. So I feel that it's a crazy way to end a season. But let's move on to your junior year. You're on varsity. You guys were 8-1, won the last ever North Iowa Conference championship because in '92 they switched to districts and went away from conference play. In the regular season, and I know this is a sore subject to a lot of people, but it is what it is. We beat Garner in the regular season 29-6, and then the first round of the playoffs they match us together, and we take a 19-12 loss for our only loss of the season. But you personally, you were sixth on the team in tackles with 38 tackles. Your 90 and 91 teams were known especially for defense, and this what I found was interesting. In your 18 games in 90 and 91, 9 of those 18 games were shutouts. That's a huge credit to Coach Perkins. In the 9 games that were not shutouts, 3 of them you only gave up 1 score, and the most we ever gave up was 19 points in a game twice in those 2 seasons. Both times were to Garner, and they ended up winning the state championship. So you guys were pretty defensive minded back then, especially. What do you remember about that junior season and your defense?
Boy, our junior season, it still brings a tear in the eye with the first round playoff game loss to Garner. But you know, I think back, we went out every week, worked our tails off, and we knew going into the game on Friday nights that we were going to kick butt. That's you know, that was the way everybody around, you know, as far as my friends and my teammates, we all felt when we were going on that field on a Friday night that we weren't coming off that field as losers. That's how hard we worked. That's how confident we were, just because with Coach Sanger and Coach Perkins, especially on the defense, as you mentioned, we had a lot of athletes. You know, I look back, those senior guys, and yeah, I was a junior, but you know, you look back, you know, had Kevin Eisman, Kerry Hudspeth, Chris Cooley, Eric Rasmussen, Rick Sanger, Benji Swears, Chad Trulson. You know, I played with those guys, the front guys, Trulson, Swears, Hudspeth, you know, beside me at that tackle position. We were unstoppable up front, you know, and then we just had Ricky and the guys in the backfield, you know, with Rass and Chelberg, and you know, we cleaned up. I mean, it was just every game just felt like we were just unstoppable.
Yeah.
It was just, I'll never forget my junior or senior year, but the junior year was really special. It just felt really good about how we were doing the whole year, and we just felt great every Friday night, you know, how things went. So
did you have a lot of teammates in the weight room with you?
You know, I hate to say it, but there wasn't a lot of guys but in the weight room back then. But you know, I think again, times were different then. we had different ways of, getting that next notch. And I don't know if it was just our attitude. Yeah, we had guys in the weight room, but not like you see, nowadays where everybody's got to get in the weight room to get better. And these teams are, weight room, weight room, weight room. I hung out with guys that were competitive. Kerry Hudspeth was a good friend of mine back in high school, and we still talk when we can today, but I don't see him near as often. But I just remember how competitive he was, and I wanted to be around competitive people. And I was always around, I had friends that were always competitive, and that's who I kind of hung out with. People that, didn't like to lose and worked hard to win, and that's how it was back then,
Yep. That's what it should
And
be.
again, we didn't have cell phones, and video games. We had the video game systems, but not like we do now. We had other things to do and keep us busy other than cell phones and media and all that type of stuff. So,
yeah, definitely. So let's move on to your senior year, 1992. You guys were 8-3. Like I said, it was the first year of district play. So you went away from playing all just the conference teams in Rockford to playing teams in our class, which we were 2A back then. You guys made it to the quarterfinals, which would have been the farthest playoff run you made in your 4 years. But you ran into a buzzsaw that year called North Fayette. They, just like Garner the year before, they won the state championship. We got to play them in the non-district season and then in the quarterfinals. So 2 losses to the state champs and then a 5-point loss to Emmitsburg. I mean, so you're really looking at another undefeated season essentially, minus state champs. You lost by 5 to Emmitsburg, 7-0 and 17-0 to North Fayette. It's a couple close wins. You beat Garner 7-3, beat North Iowa 15-9. And then some just your normal scores that you see where you win by 3 to 5 to 6 touchdowns, whatever it might be. So you guys had a good season. You personally, you went from 38 tackles to 47 on the tackle chart. What do you remember about that senior year?
It was actually a terrible year for me as far as I actually strained my hamstring, had a hamstring injury. First 40-yard dash, I wasn't warmed up. We run our 40s, run our mile. I pulled that. I thought I had pulled it, but I ended up being a hamstring strain. So I played on that all year injured. It was a very frustrating year for me because I'd worked my tail off. I put on about 20 pounds. I went from about 185 to about 210, 215. Got a lot stronger, quicker, and I pulled that hamstring the first 40. In fact, Coach Sanger used to say, what was the worst thing that could happen in the beginning of our season? He mentioned that quite a few years when I first started coaching, and he brought up that hamstring pull when I ran that 40, and that was devastating for me. I was really thinking, playing college, and I had colleges looking at me at that time, and it was a devastating issue for me. But I kept working through it. Like I say, played injured on it all year. In fact, the North Iowa game, I ended up leaving that game early. I was very upset. Felt like the guy across from me, of course, wasn't near the guy, and I felt I really could have helped the team out and had a good game, and I couldn't even finish the game. My hamstring was really bothering me that night. And then Coach pulled me on the Iowa Falls game. He wanted me to heal up because he knew he just had a feeling that we were going to go ahead and take Iowa Falls. And he wanted me as close to 100% for the North Fayette game. And so I didn't play that first playoff Iowa Falls game. But I don't know, with the tackles thing, it comes back to all the athletes we had back in 91. You had guys that were, chasing that quarterback or solo tackle. I mean, it was tough, back in 91. We had a lot of athletes. And I'm not saying my senior class, we didn't have athletes, but I think I do pull on some of that. Is I probably got a few more that year because we didn't have near as many hitting on the other end, so that's about all I can say. Playing injured, and I don't know why I had more tackles, to be honest with
you. Yeah, especially playing injured, that's pretty impressive. So your career, 29-8 overall in the 4 years of varsity. An interesting fact I found was you never lost a homecoming game, if that means anything. You've 2 conference titles, 2 runner-ups, so you're never worse than second in the conference or district. And 2 of your losses were to eventual state champions. So that's, what do you do there? Sometimes you just run into a team like that. And you already mentioned some of these guys, but Scott Van Dusseldorp, Hagen, Steve Kelly, Rick Sanger, Kevin Eisman, Benji Swears, Corey Mattoon, Brent Shellberg, Nate Smith. You played with a ton of all-staters, a lot of guys that are mentioned in the record book many times. And you already kind of answered my question, but the line, I'm always, the linemen don't get the stats. They don't get a lot of the recognition. Who are some of the other linemen you played with?
Well, we had Hunt and Raftall my senior year. Andy Hunt, Travis Raftall, Paul Francis. Those guys. Center wise, we had some younger guys playing then too. With juniors, Chad Gertis. You mentioned Mattoon. And of course Nate Smith in the backfield, and Ted played too as well. And just we had a good nucleus. It didn't matter what year we were. We seemed to always rebuild. And how it went each year and year in and year out. We always seem to rebuild. So yeah, linemen don't get a lot of credit.
No.
But it's I still talk to Ricky Sanger yet today. Once in a while we'll talk and we'll bring up those Garner games. 245 dive was a lot of fun when he having Ricky run that ball beside my left hip. That was a lot of fun for him. And those are great memories. Never be able to take them away.
Yep.
So
it's the best.
and
best
that's what I was
play
going to say is he appreciated us linemen. That everybody appreciated everybody. And the backs did give credit to the line, and that was always appreciative. But yeah, linemen never get really the credit, but that's okay.
Yeah, we know. Yep. See,
That's right.
see, graduated '93. Just for fun, I do this in some episodes. The top song of 1993 was "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. I'm sure that's what you listen to get yourself pumped up for games. No.
No. Guns N' Roses,
There we
Ozzy, Motley Crue.
Yeah, that sounds more like it.
AC/DC.
Yep. Top movie.
I didn't listen to much of that stuff. In fact, I didn't even know that, Dan.
Yeah, that's why I like to find the most obscure one and have some fun with it. I'm
Yeah.
sure you watched this movie though. Jurassic Park was the top movie the year you graduated.
Yeah, I was, Terminator 2, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I didn't go to, and I really didn't go to that many movies, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So you didn't rent many movies from my parents' video stores.
Well, we
saying,
did,
yeah?
we did, but not, renting and going to a movie was two different things, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper to rent.
Yeah, no kidding. I still remember it was $2.36 to rent a video from my parents.
Yep.
So, yeah, where'd you end up after high school then? After you graduated?
I went to NIAC, did some automotive, and went into law enforcement at Waldorf. Actually was on the team at Waldorf and decided to quit. I had, as you all know, I had Seth when I was 19, and I had to grow up pretty fast. Regret it to this day. Ballstorf had me actually O guard and D tackle in college, and I kick myself yet today that I give it up, and that's why I always encourage Seth when he had that chance to play college ball, don't quit, because I regret it, because I really don't know where that would have taken me, but I regret that part, but I don't regret doing the right thing and being a dad, and I had a lot of responsibility, and I needed to do that, and that part I don't regret.
Yeah,
I might regret the college football thing, but I don't regret trying to be the best dad as I could be, even at 19. So.
Yep. Say you've done all right. So let's move on to that kid you had at 19, Mr. Seth to the right here. Like I said, your more recent glory days. You played 2009 to 2012, and your dad got to be one of your coaches all those years. And then obviously Coach Sanger leading things, and then Coach Perkins on defense, where you mostly starred. You're friends with today's sponsor, Eric Kroll. Growing up, I remember you, little guy.
Around here,
Yeah. What do you remember growing up in the kind of the 2000s, mid to late 2000s?
I remember getting in a lot of trouble, I guess. I remember playing baseball and football in the back of Moose Yard there a lot. It was like Corey Fermonic, Mason Muth, your brother, Nate Aitchison, Josiah Eccles. We all we play baseball and football back there. And then
Yeah.
or we get bored of that, or we go play basketball up front, or we play video games or whatever. And we go over to your guys' house, and your brother had some kind of net set up in the, I don't know, what would you call that?
Our old church house.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, the church house. And we'd hit baseballs or golf swings or whatever the heck we did. And then I remember playing like Mario and Luigi on the game console on your couch, I guess.
Yeah. And then in about 3rd grade, my family moved to Buffalo Center. I heard that was kind of a big deal that led to years later.
That was a rough deal for all of us, kind of. We all, good friends with Eric, and he goes and leaves us. Well, I held a grudge. I don't know if everybody else did, but I held a grudge. And then after high school, I start talking more to Eric again, and we get together, I don't know, probably once a month, go out to eat, hang out with friends, stuff like that. But I usually shoot the crap with him about every day over Snapchat or text message.
When we moved, Britt people were mad at Eric, and Buffalo Center people were mad at me. The rumor was that I was going to play football and basketball there my senior year, and I had no intention of doing that. I was driving back to Britt. I wasn't going to go over there by any means. So yeah, it was an interesting year, but it worked out. Yep. And I remember you being our manager. You might have been my sophomore, junior, and senior year, 02, 03, 04 maybe. You wanted to tell a story about who was it? Adam Brower.
Adam Brower. After like it would probably been like a Tuesday or Wednesday night practice. I think Adam Brower was running his mouth towards me, and I'm like 2nd, 3rd grade. I'm running my mouth back, and I go over there and hit him right in the crotch. I probably shouldn't have done that. He picks me up, and there's a trash can right next to the locker room, and he dumps me in it. Well, he takes me right back out. Well, when he picked me up and pulled me out, he sliced my eye on the trash can, and I was bleeding all over heck. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and crying. And then Mitch Horseman picks me up and runs me in the coach's office. All the coaches are like, what the heck's going on? I told them, and then I ended up going to the ER and getting like 8 stitches in my eye. Some of the stupid stuff.
Yeah. When you're a manager, though, do you remember watching us and like being like, that's going to be me someday? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I do. I remember you were, I think, 75.
Yep.
And Joel Pauls
76.
was the other tackle, and he was 76. I just remember Dad yelling at you guys all the time. I don't know if that was a good thing or
wasn't that bad, was it?
It was pretty frequent, Cole, I'll be honest.
I zoned it out. Yeah, I zoned it out. Probably didn't pay attention.
Maybe you weren't blocking to the whistle or weren't doing something right. I don't know.
Probably not. Be my guess. So yeah.
You're freshman.
Yeah, you're freshman year.
Days.
Oh yeah. They were good times. And like you said, Coach Goepel, like I've been out since 2004, but some stuff that I think I'll remember, I'm like, I don't remember that at all. And it just kind of, everything blurs together. So, yeah. So Seth, your freshman year was 2009. That was kind of the second of 2 rough seasons that we weren't used to having. 2008, we were 2-7. That was the year after we lost like Brady Wilson, Josh Willert, Levi Dawn. We had a pretty young group. 2009, they got a little better, 3-6. Our first couple non-winning seasons since 1982. So you were mostly on JV that year, just kind of like your dad was his freshman year. Do you remember your JV year? Were you guys optimistic about turning things around?
No, I knew we were going to be good. It was the fact that some of my freshman year, some of the sophomores were playing varsity.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so we
we did what we did, you know. But I think we lost, 2 games. I think one was to Newman and the other one was to Osage. And I remember it was a home game against Newman, and Chris Slugger was punting. I think Gunner Clark was the up man, you know. And this was a close game. It was a close game, and Gunner backed up into Chris, and Chris punted the ball right into his back. They ended up getting the ball, and they ended up winning that game, which we should have won the game, but we didn't.
Yeah.
I guess that was one of the memories. And then Osage, they were just tough. I remember them being tough. They were good, and we couldn't get it done. But I don't remember the score to that game, but they were good.
Yep. One thing that cracks me up on these podcasts when I talk football with you guys or any of the other people I've done, we spend more time talking about losses than we do wins, which means that we win a lot and we're not used to losing, and that's what sticks in your mind. Because same way, like the Northwood game my senior year in 2004, I still haven't watched that game. I told myself 15 years I'd watch it. 15 years was like last year, 2 years ago, and I'm like, nope, not watching it. I still get ticked off about that game. It's like I don't even remember some of the wins.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I haven't watched the Lisbon game either. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
It's a testament to how good our program is. I'd say that the losses are what concern us all these years later. So, so 2010, your sophomore year, went from 3-6 in 2009 to 8-4. Won the first of 3 straight district titles. Made it to the quarterfinals. What do you think was the turnaround from the year before? Just a lot of young kids that had some experience at that point, or hungry to turn it around?
That senior class, they didn't have as many athletes, so there was probably 8 to 10 of them that year. It was been Matt McDermott's senior year, and I remember him starting, Josh Ziegler playing guard, and Scott Dolphin playing center, and Nick Nelson playing tackle. But that's about all I remember. Otherwise, it was us juniors and sophomores playing. And I guess what I remember is, you know, the sophomores and juniors, we were really gritty. We were mean people. To be honest, we were really mean people. But I guess that kind of gave us an edge. I mean, we were young, didn't care about anything. We just wanted to win. Yeah. But, I remember like we would have lost to Galen Catholic. That would have been a non-district game at the beginning of the season. They were very tough. They were good. They had Trevor Bama, which is like the leading rusher for Division I AA out of South Dakota. Yeah. And he was very, very good. And their O-line and D-line, I mean, they were all around very good football team. And then I guess later on in that season, we played Woodbury Central. That was was that first round maybe?
First round, yep.
And we were down by 21 points at one time. And it was probably 33, 34 degrees out.
It was sleeting. I remember that game. It was really cold and it was sleeting.
And I was only playing defense, you know, defensive tackle. I remember running out there, you know, getting nice and warm. And I'd have to come off the sideline. I'd just get freezing my tail off. And then we go halftime, and you know, we got Coach Sanger's big speech. I remember, you know, him talking us up, you know, saying we can do this, and same as Coach Perkins. But we end up going back out there, and we ended up scoring 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think Zach had 3 of the 4 touchdowns, maybe, running off like 327 or 329 trap at the time. We came back and beat them. I had a big sack that night. I think it was like a 10 or 12 yard sack. He just kept dropping back, and just like, what are you doing here, you know? But I guess
that was a good comeback. That was a good game. That's a little more fresh in the memory bank there, Dan.
You got to sit back and observe it all. So
it's a game you don't forget, you know.
Yep, definitely. So that season you had 79 tackles, 11 sacks, an interception, and 4 fumble recoveries. Like you said, you just played defense. Then yeah, the Galen losses, in the quarters we lost to them again. Lost to
Yeah.
Northwood, lost to Garner, and again we're talking about losses because that's just what we do at West Hancock.
That Northwood game. So we were a three-way tie for district title that year.
Mm-hmm.
So that Northwood game, it was a really close game, and I think we were tied at the third, fourth quarter, the beginning of fourth quarter, and I can't think of his name now. It was the coach's son, head coach's son.
Capitani, Spencer.
Yeah, Spencer Capitani. He played at Wartburg, was an All-American there, defensive. He was like I can't even think. He played defense there.
He's a safety or D-back.
Yeah, defensive corner maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him. He was punting. It was 4th down and long, and he was the punter and the quarterback. I'm like, okay, well, he drops back and he acts like he's going to throw the ball, and I'm running him down, and then he hurries up and punts the ball. Well, in midair, I'm tackling him as he's punting the ball, thinking he was going to throw it.
Yeah. And
they throw like a 10 or 15-yard penalty on me for roughing the punter.
Yeah.
And everybody, everything's going nuts, and the play stands, which it shouldn't have, in my opinion. I don't think that's right. If he takes off, he runs out of the box, and he's quarterback / punter, he should be able to get hit.
Yeah, you can't just stand there and let him do it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, I couldn't stop myself, but they ended up getting 15 yards. They ended up scoring, and then we run like a crisscross trap, which you probably never ran in high school. It was between Ryan Swanson and Zach Slugger, and that was like our last go around to score, and they end up fumbling, they recover, and then they won.
Yeah.
And then we end up playing Garrigan that next Friday, and it was like we were up 21-20, and they're inside the 20, and they're about ready to score, and Geraldo Ibarra came off the edge. It would have been like Rambler fire. He was firing, going after the quarterback. He hits the quarterback, and I drop back. I intercept the football. So we end up being district champs that year, but we all shared it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep, take it.
That's how that went.
He was pretty upset himself with the
Yeah.
Northwood game.
Yeah.
Coach Perkins, I'm sure he still remembers Seth was he was very upset with himself, and I know he went to Coach Perkins, I think, the next day and told him how bad he felt about losing that game. And I said, you're maturing, you'll get there, not to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I said it'll get better the next game, and then he gets that interception at the Garrigan game.
Yeah.
I remember him running off, and I said, see how things happen. You might have a disappointment here, but you made up for it tonight. It was just an exciting. Those years are so exciting.
Yeah.
I think those years. But
yeah.
Speaking of Coach Perkins, I remember I was so mad, and he was mad at me on the sideline, and I got really emotional. We're walking back to the locker room, and I'm all worked up, and I throw my helmet on the ground, and I remember him getting so mad at me for doing that, and he grabbed me, by my arm, and he's like very stern with me, and he was telling me what, you shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that, and he walks me into the locker room and sits me down on the bench, and I guess that was that, and I guess I kind of wrote him a letter, and I had a pink mohawk, I shaved all that off.
Nice.
Just some dumb stuff you remember, but yeah, I remember he was really mad at me for that.
Yeah, that Garrigan game.
Yeah, he likes me now.
He forgave.
He likes me now.
It's like he wouldn't have been the first one that any of us were mad at. It's just part of the game.
No.
Grown up
Emotionally.
Yeah. So that Garrigan game, like you mentioned, 29-28, we ended up winning. That was the
Yeah.
game where you guys, that Christian radio station came and like followed you guys
Yeah.
around and did a thing for Cody Schmidt,
Yep.
who passed away that year. That was kind of a neat thing they did for you guys. And then you guys hung up 78 on Southeast Webster, and that was Cody's jersey
Yep.
number. So
Yeah,
that was
we actually faked. We were kicking an extra point, and we were supposed to, bobble it and throw the pass to get 78 instead of 77.
mhm,
It ended up working out.
to make it not look like it was intentional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it had to be a bad snap,
Yeah. Genius. Yeah, you guys had a tough go with that, I know, with Cody passing.
Yep.
Yeah. And then your junior year, 2011, I think most people remember this. And not to make you feel old, even though you're young compared to me. 10 years ago, this
Holy
football
cow.
season, you guys went 12-2. You won the district title, and you were state runner-ups. Lost to Lisbon by 2 in the championship game. You personally, you had 71 tackles, 6 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries. Started the season with Garner, won 36-33, which isn't typical of a Garner-Britt game. Usually that's a lower scoring game.
That was a shootout.
Yep. And then Galen, Lamar's Galen again. We just couldn't get over that hump in the regular season. They got us for the 3rd time in 2 seasons. But I think I was at that game as well, but I was watching them like, if we can beat them, it's just we have to play a really good game. If we meet them in the playoffs, I felt good about our chances. And then you guys just went on a tear that rest of that season. Didn't really have much of a close game at that point. Get to the playoffs, and teams in Northwest Iowa must hate us because they always get paired with us and they never do well. West Sioux in the first round, we won 56-6. Woodbury Central really has to hate us by now, especially after 2019. We beat them 55-12. And then the rematch with Galen, we got them at home, and that game was 47-40. I was at that game as well. What do you remember about the Galen playoff game?
We changed things. Coach Perkins changed the defense and how we matched up with them, I guess. They ran like a pistol back with Trevor Bauma back there, and then their quarterback was very handy. And I think our defensive end had the quarterback. If he went out, and the defensive end had the quarterback, and then our outside backer went straight to Trevor Bauma. They didn't give him a chance, to get the ball. And I think that really helped us defensively. And then that was the whole change up defensively. And then I think Zach spied Trevor the whole time at linebacker.
Yeah.
And then offensively, we would just call inside trap was the call. And me and Nate Aitchison, we were the guards, and I guess Ben Reuter was too. And we would just call, we would call who was pulling when we get up there, because they would run a 5 and they would shade the nose to wherever the heck he wanted to be. And then we would decide who was pulling then. And then that was just wide open for Chris. I mean, we were getting first downs after first downs with that.
Yep. Then that probably opened it up for Zach as well, because I remember he had a lot of big runs, just like he did that whole playoff run.
Yeah, so I guess we changed things up. I guess that's how we beat him, because we had to change things of what we were doing.
Yep.
And it worked out. But,
yep. And I remember they scored to make it 47-40 us, and they had to onside kick it, and he booted the crap out of that ball, and it went out of bounds in a hurry. And then we just had to take a knee or two, and the game was over. And that was a fun feeling, knowing that you're going to the Dome. And then the Dome game, the first Dome game in the semis, was Perkins versus Perkins. And it was also Coach Sanger's 300th win. And we beat Madrid 48-38. Another shootout type of game. What do you remember about that first Dome experience?
I remember all their fakes defensively. They had a fullback fake and then another tailback fake, and then they'd roll out with the quarterback and another tailback. And their backfield was the 100 4x1 or the shuttle hurdle
state champions. That was their backfield. And they were tall, skinny, they're all fast guys. And I just remember all the fakes. I just remember whoever I saw, first I would just tackle whoever I saw because I would just try to eliminate, one of the backs, I just remember that mainly. And then right before halftime, Pat Smith hit the quarterback, and then Josiah Eccles intercepted the ball when he ran down and scored. And so that put us on top right before halftime.
Mm-hmm.
So we had good feelings coming into halftime. And then I ended up getting a taunting call.
He brings up the bad things all the
Again.
time. That wasn't good, but he made up for it. I think he blocked 2 extra point kicks.
Yeah, I had a couple extra points that were blocked, which I don't know. I always tried getting extra points blocked because you never know, they got up,
Yep, especially in a 48-38 type of game.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember Zach having a good game, and the guards were pulling well. And
yeah,
I remember specifically the one must have been like a 327 or whatever. I remember Seth just knocking that kid clean on his tail, and Zach just peeled right around him, and I think he scored on that. I think they're pretty close. It was just
Well,
it was a
pretty
lot
much
of
scored
fun.
every
It was
time.
really hard hitting game. I
Not
just
every-
remember how hard hitting game it was.
not every time Zach got the ball, he's going to score.
Yeah. I have a good story about Madrid. I was the head coach at Southeast Warren that season as like a 24-year-old who had no business being a head coach, but I got hired. And we're playing Madrid in the last game of the regular season. They're, of course, going to make it to the Dome. My team is 2-7. We have 16 kids for varsity football because a lot of kids want to go to FFA convention instead of the game. We had kids ineligible. We had injuries. We had one kid roll his ankle during pregame warm-ups, and one kid got a nosebleed during warm-ups, and his mom took him home. So I had 14 kids to play Madrid. My nose tackle was like a 5'6" freshman. We kick off to them after I told my kid not to kick it to him. He kicks it to him. They run it back for a touchdown, 7-0. They kick it off to us. My returner fumbles it. They scoop and score, 14-0. They kick it off to us again. We throw a pass on the first play and score a touchdown, so it's 14-7. I tell him not to kick it to them again. He kicks it to him again. He runs it back. It's 21-7. We run another pass play after they kick it off to us. He picks it off, and we're down 28-7. Only 2 plays had been run offensively, and only like 47 seconds had come off the clock. It was one of the longest nights of my coaching career, to say the least. But then things settled down, and Coach Hinkle just did his thing, and they beat us pretty handily. But that's my Madrid story about that year. They were pretty good, especially when we had 14 kids. But so yeah, championship game, 14-12. Lost to Lisbon in the title game. I brought my Southeast Warren team to that game because 1, you guys were playing, and 2, I wanted them to see the Dome. I remember the 8-man game before that. Fremont Mills beat Murray 81-0. And I'm like, that was crazy. And then we had a low scoring affair in your game. Obviously it's a tough pill to swallow, losing in a championship game, especially when Gerardo broke his leg. People have said for years, if he was healthy, didn't break his leg, we just needed a field goal at the end that probably would have won it, which makes it even tougher to swallow, more of the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But Lisbon, I thought, did a great job containing Zach. They really did a nice job of crashing on the outside and making sure that he didn't get out there. So what do you remember from that game?
They really keyed on Zach and Chris, and that kind of left open Waldo. And he was actually doing he was having a really good game. So, I mean, we would have won that game if he didn't get hurt. I mean, plain as day. Yeah. But it is what it is, But what do I remember? Not much, to be honest. I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember I tweaked my knee at one time at a extra point, or we just scored, or a 2-point conversion. And then I remember Waldo getting hurt, and then I remember their D line being really tough. But oh yeah, would you look at that?
Yeah, I found a couple pictures today online to share. You and John Burgart.
That was I think that was the Magic game.
Yep, and then this is the Lisbon game. Can you see that?
Yep. I only see me and John.
Oh, okay.
You got the John and Seth one. But
Let me try this one again. I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world.
It's okay.
There's the Lisbon one.
Oh yeah. That's
online.
what you call a missed tackle right there, Dan.
Well, from here, it looks like you got him by the ankle and he's getting ready to fall. So,
we'll go with that one.
Yeah. The joy of time is that we get better as we get older and hope for the best. But I've actually been scolded a few times from making the record book because people are like, now I can't make up how good I was because now people actually see that I wasn't as good as I was now that there's actual records and stats. I'm like, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, yeah. I just reflect back on Seth's years. You know, when you got a kid playing, it's you remember a lot of things. But you know, even the 2010 group. You know, Matt McDermott, he was a worker. You know, he worked his tail off in the weight room, and I remember these guys. It just seemed like we had a really good nucleus. You know, 10, 11, and 12. You know, and I'm not taking anything away from our state title team this last couple of years, but it just seems like we had a really good nucleus of kids that wanted to get in the weight room and do better. And I just remember those years specifically. We didn't have new weight room then. We were still lifting the multi and the old weight room yet. And I just remember we had a good nucleus of kids, and it was probably some of the best years that I'd had. But you know, now looking this summer, boy, we've got great attendance. You know, I got 7th and 8th graders coming in more than ever, you know, but I just look back to Seth's years and that, you know, you just remember those group of kids, those group of guys, you know, it was just a good nucleus, and they were hardworking. You know, every year guys are hardworking. I'm not saying that, but it just seemed like they had things together, and it was too bad. You know, I remember a lot of tears being shed after that Lisbon game. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
And I was heartbroken just with them, you know, and but it is what it is, you know. So you learn from it.
And looking back, I mean, Coach Sanger had 52 teams, and 7 of them made the championship game. So just to say that you're on one of those teams is pretty impressive. And me personally, I'm jealous. Like we made it to the quarterfinals once and the first round once, and then didn't qualify a few times. Like, man, I would have killed to be in a championship game. And I still say my sophomore year, 02, we should have been. I don't think we would have won the title, but I think we should have been in that game. But can't do do-overs in this world. So, and then you still had another year left. The 2011 runner-up season was just your junior year. Your senior year, you still had Chris Schlugger, had you and Josiah and Pat and several other guys. You guys went 9-2. You're district champs for the 3rd year. One thing I found in my research was you are one of 3 groups of players to win at least 3 straight district or conference titles. From 1958 to 62, they won 5 straight. That'd be the Steve Everett era. And then in the Coach Sanger era, they won 4 straight from 93 to 96. And then you guys won it in 10, 11, and 12. So you're one of 3 groups to ever three-peat or more. So that's a pretty impressive thing to think about when we've won 28 titles in school history. You're a part of 3 of those. But that season, you guys made it to the 2nd round of the playoffs. That was when they went from 16 to 32, and then we went back to 16, and now we're going back to 32. So there was a first round, a second round, quarterfinals, semis, and championship. You guys won 1 playoff game and then lost to Akron Westfield in the second round, 28-16, I believe was the score. Close game against Garner, you guys won. Your only other loss was to St. Ansgar. They've kind of been our Achilles in the last decade or so. And then you won 8-6 over Prairie Valley.
I remember the Garner game. Gosh, those first couple games are just so hot. And I remember cramping up all the time because it's just so hot, and I get cramps in my calves so easy. But
I remember it was a close game. I think it was like a couple touchdown game, and Garner was backed up in our end zone, and they were punting. And Keith Swickerath, a good friend of mine still today, he was linebacker and fullback at that year, his senior year. And I remember blocking the punt and Nate Aitchison picking it up in the end zone. We went up another touchdown.
Mhm.
I guess that was one of the memories I remember playing Garner, and then playing against Nick Tusha. He was probably one of the best offensive linemen I played against.
Mhm.
But yeah, another good friend of mine. And then St. Ansgar, that was another hot game. Oh man, we lost by 2 points. We never kicked field goals, which I'm gonna have my kids kick field goals so we can have people that kick field goals. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's
We
so
talk about that. We talk
that's so
about that every year, but
frustrating.
we can't seem to get.
We gotta have
We
people.
need to get some kids going out there and practicing, I guess, in the summer or something. We've always
Have you
talked
seen
about it.
in the record book the record for most field goals in a career? You ever looked at that part?
I have it in front of me. Do you know what
One.
page it is?
There's like
One?
5 guys that have made 1 field goal, and that's the Sanger era record. I'm working on the record book. I'm going to make it from 1899 to present day, and I'm working on that right now. There's a guy in like the 30s. That was back when they drop kicked, but that counts as 3 points, which is a field goal. One guy made 3 in one game and like 5 in a season, so that'll eventually change. But literally in the Coach Bob Sanger era, there's like 5 guys who each made 1, and that was all the field goals we've ever made. And there hasn't been that many more attempted even. So yeah, definitely you guys need to work on
Yes.
kickers. Get some exchange students or something. We gotta switch it
We've
up.
had some in the past. My senior year, we had an exchange student.
Yeah, we did too. Mine. He has more points than I do in high school football, and I'm a little bitter about that. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
the St. Ansgar game, I think we won by 2. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I just remember them having a really good tailback. He was very, very quick. I think they made it to the quarterfinals that year, but we lost by 2.
yeah, and they were the state champs the year before. We were runner-ups. They were
The year
state champs in
before, yeah.
2011. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I'll tell you what though.
We
I
played
have.
them there.
I don't know him like you guys do, but St. Ansgar's coach, Drew Clevenger, when I went to Coach Sanger's visitation, he was 10 or 15 people ahead of me in line. And you know, you were there, you probably stood in line for hours like I did. I was there for 3.5+ hours. And he stood in line that whole time to pay his condolences to the family. And for some reason that stood out to me. And I actually sent him an email on his school email and said that was very nice of him for doing that. But man, he had our number over the last 10 years or whatever. I think we're 0-6 against St. Ansgar. So
He's a good guy. I got a lot of respect for him. I think he
Yeah.
does a very good job over there.
yeah,
The weight room is awesome too.
isn't
They do a very good job in the weight room.
Yeah, yep, you can tell. So Seth, your career record was 32-14. If you take out your freshman year, and add in your 3 years plus all the playoff games, you were 29-8, which is the exact same record your dad was in his 4 years of varsity. Like I said, if you take out 2009 because you didn't really play, I just thought that was kind of a neat thing that I found in the research that you had. I kind of fudged the numbers a little bit, but 29-8 came up twice there. So, and then you went to
Right.
Iowa Central, right?
Yes, I did.
Yep. How'd that go?
It was my freshman year. Going to camp was probably the hardest thing I've ever endured in life, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was very hard. It was hot. You had 2 to 3 practices a day. All you did was eat, drink, and go to practice and go to film and study.
Yeah.
That's all you did for 21 days. And it was very rough on you mentally because the coaches were swearing at you, cussing at you, you know, yelling at you, and you had to learn all this stuff in a short amount of time. It was very, very hard. But I loved it. It paid off. Yes, it paid off. There was probably 24 to 28 linebackers I had to compete against to get my starting spot. And I worked myself up there, and there was a kid from Iowa City West, and me and him, we switched every other series. But yeah, it it was tough. It was rough, and it got better as we started playing games and I started playing varsity, and I mean, but my sophomore year it was a lot more fun. A lot more fun. The coaches loved you, Coach Schumacher from Garner, he was my strength coach. I got along with him really well. And Coach Coach Twait, he was the head coach. He didn't like me from the start, but I kind of grew on him. But
That's the Britt Emmitsburg thing going on there.
yeah.
That Iowa Central staff was like a who's who of former high school football coaches. There was a lot of the Goodchild and the Twaits and Tom Steen.
Coach Steen was my linebacker coach.
Don Anderson coached there for a year. I don't know if that was your years. No, he was coaching Eric then, so yeah, that wasn't him at that time. But so I found an article online, Seth, from 2013, and it's about you going to Iowa Central. I don't know if you remember this article in the paper. I'm just going to read snippets of it. And this is just a thing about Coach Sanger as well as you. Says West Hancock football coach Bob Sanger says senior linebacker offensive guard Seth Gulple has one of the strongest work ethics he's ever seen in his players. And to me, that says a lot. He's had 52 years of that. According to Goepel, he'll need it if he wants to gain some playing time next fall for Iowa Central. The level of competition for spots is very high, Goepel said. You have potential D1 players, scholarship players, and walk-ons all making the team. Sanger, isn't about to start doubting Goepel now. Coach Sanger said Seth is the type of guy who will do what's necessary to get the job done and probably earn a spot on the team, which is difficult at Iowa Central. Seth is a very strong kid, and for his size, he's got good, quick feet. He moves the ball very well. I just thought that was kind of neat, to look at the other day to hear Coach Sanger say that about you. Kind of the ultimate compliment, I'd say. Yeah, especially to hear that from him.
Funny thing is at the awards banquet his sophomore year, Twait said almost the identical thing he said.
Yeah.
And that was after Twait, and Twait didn't, he told it how it was, and I thought that was really, cool that he basically said what Coach Sanger said about him. So,
yeah. That's neat.
He did well.
Yep. So Seth, you were 3-time All-District in high school, but you're one of like 23 players to be 3-time All-District or Conference. Stacy, coach, you were 2-time All-District, and there's only, I think it was about 110 players on the list of 2-time All-District. So it's really, when you compare it to the thousands of people who have played at Britt or West Hancock, that's not a big list. In the record book, Seth, and I don't want to see your head get too big. We can't see the poster behind you here, but you're on a lot of leaderboards for the record book. For most tackles in a second round game, you're tied for 12th twice at 8 tackles. And tackles, there wasn't a lot of stats for that over the years that I could find. You're for like tackles in a state title game, you're tied for 7th, but again, there wasn't a lot of records for that back then. You have 4 games with 10 plus tackles in your career. Jordan Weiland holds the record for that with 17 games. And then I realized, I talked to you the other day in my research, I completely omitted you from a section of the record book. Most seasons with 50 or more tackles, you did that 3 times. I didn't even put you on the list, but you were on the next list ahead of that. While I was doing the record book, stuff happened and I messed things up. So sorry about that. You're 13th all time in career tackles. You and I are actually on a list together. Again, sacks weren't even an actual stat until I think the late 80s or early 90s. So like most of the players that played for Coach Sanger, sacks weren't even recorded. So there's a very small window of time where sacks is a thing, and that's the only reason I got on there. But sacks in a game, Jeremy Hill has the record with 4. You and me and about 10 other guys are on there with 3. That would have been SCMT my senior year, and I can't remember which game you did that in.
Dad must have yelled at you quite a bit that game.
Yeah, Woodbury Central and Lake Mills. I did write that one down. But yeah, that's the only way I can toot my own horn is to say that I did that, but it was the one category where there wasn't a whole lot of records there. You're second all time for sacks in a season with 11. Only Nate Rasmussen is ahead of you. He had 13 in 2000. You're the Sanger era school record holder for sacks in a career with 21. I think you're 7 ahead of Nate Rass. He did most of his damage in just one season. Twice you're on the list for most fumble recoveries in a season. You're tied for 6 with 4, and then you also had 3 in a season. And then you're tied for 3rd all time in career fumble recoveries with 8. Nick Horseman has the record with 12. He also lives here in Indianola, and I get together with him once in a while. So again, we're enough years removed, we can have fun and kind of toot our own horns.
Yep.
So I thought it was kind of fun to look those
Yeah,
things up. I was going through this
He's a good
stuff.
guy.
Yep. Yeah, it's fun to see where you stack up with guys from other eras too. So let's talk about your coaching careers. Coach Goepel, you came back to Britt and started coaching in 2002, which was my sophomore year. If you add up all the records from '02 to 2020, you are 147 and 60 as an assistant coach for the program. If you take out the 3 down years, '08, '09, and 2013, you're 142 and 38. All the games you've been a part of. In your 19 seasons, you've been on 15 playoff teams, and that would include 1 state title, 1 runner-up, 3 semifinals, 6 quarterfinals, a second-round appearance, and 3 first-round appearances. You're 22 and 14 in the playoffs. You have 9 district titles in 19 years and 6 runner-ups. So 15 of your 19 years, you guys were top 2 in the district. Seth, since 2014, your coaching career at West Hancock is 58 and 20. You've never not made the playoffs, so 7 playoff appearances. That includes a state title, semis, 3 quarters, and 2 qualifiers or first rounds. Your playoff record is 9 and 6. You've won 2 district titles and 5 runner-ups. So every year you've been a coach, you've been top 2 in the district as well. And then you're also one of the middle school coaches, correct?
Yeah, head coach for the middle school boys football team.
How's that going for you?
Yep. It's challenging. It's not high school, but
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's fun seeing the kids grow from 7th to 8th grade, and watching them learn the basic stuff.
Yep.
Teaching them the basic stuff. But yeah, it's all right.
The next generation. Yep. I coached 7th grade football at Norwalk, and I remember our athletic director in the beginning of the year meeting with all the coaches said that 7th grade football coaches have the most difficult job out of any coach because those kids don't know anything.
Yeah.
They're crazy. They're hormonal. They're nuts. They're just barely human. So I have a lot of respect for middle school coaches.
It's tough, but you just do it.
Yep. Lay the groundwork for the next generation. And I've heard you guys have been pretty successful the last couple of years. A lot of good teams that are coming up, good groups.
Yeah, we got some good kids coming up. Good student athletes.
Good.
But, yeah.
He's only lost a couple games, I think, the last few years. So
I lost to Garner a few times. That's about it.
Yeah, I think we all lost to Garner in middle school, though, and then we ended up beating them in high school. So.
It bothers me a little bit, but it is what it is.
They always seem to grow faster, younger, and then they kind of taper off, and then it kind of averages out. So, who would be some of your favorite players you guys have coached in your either 19 or 7 years at West Hancock?
Oh, Jordan Weiland, Hunter Hagen. Those are probably my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably my top ones.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Hagen and I used to lift together all the time. He would make sure I and we'd push each other. But I don't have anybody like that anymore.
Yeah,
but he's a very good athlete.
Yeah.
I think back when I was younger too. I had Mitch Horseman and I lifted weights a lot together. I think all the Horseman brothers, I even lifted with Al. I was starting to get a little bit older then in my 30s, but, I remember some good lifting times with Mitch. We'd have some pretty good contests with dips and things like that. I even had dip contests with Nick too, Horseman, and Dan Kruger would probably be my biggest one because we fed off each other. He was taller than me, but we were both. He was obviously very strong, and we push each other. And I remember summers out in the practice field doing tire flip contests. And
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever beat me. To be honest with you, I throw that in his face once in a while, but I don't know if he remembers that anymore. But obviously that was when I was younger too. But there's just a ton of guys that I could name off that over the years. And the thing is, it's when I was younger and before I started working for the school, I actually had more time as a coach. And I say that because I was actually helping more with offensive and defensive line things and stuff like that. Then when I started working for the school, buildings and grounds, that really takes a lot of, and then I took over transportation. I'm not out at a practice near as much, but I'm still part of the strength part of it, and I love that. That's my cup of tea. I love to do that. Yeah. And I don't know how many more years. My daughter's a junior, going to be a junior this next year. I don't know. I'm going to be 47 now. I don't know how much more. I'm still lifting, still doing the things that I enjoy, but I just, I'm getting older. I got grandkids now. I want to keep going, but we'll see.
Yep, definitely. I still remember my sophomore year when you came. You're brand new to the program again as a coach, and I told you I could not squat. I'm like, I have a bad knee, I can't squat, and you're like, bull crap, you can do it. You just shifted my stance and made me do it with some light weight, and then it just got easier and easier. I think I was squatting almost 400 pounds by my senior year, and I was a kid 2 years ago that didn't even think I could do anything. And I'll tell some of my athletes or my students that now, and they're like, "You were an athlete," and I literally had to go get my scrapbooks out and prove them. I'm not just a fat old fourth grade teacher anymore. But I still remember the day you told me, you just gave me that look, yeah, you're gonna squat. There's no option here. You're just gonna do it.
Yeah, and and that's what today. It's all about technique. We make sure those young kids coming in have their form spot on. We're not worried about how much weight they're doing yet. We're worried about getting their form right and doing things right. And it's awesome to see them grow from junior high on, to see how much they grow as far as once they get, it's just like riding a bike with a lot of these lifts that we're doing, whether it be cleans, snatches, whatever, and it's still a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's something that doesn't pay very well, but you don't do it for the money. You do it because you enjoy it. Like I say, I'm still enjoying it, but I am starting to get older, so we'll see how much longer I'm going to be doing the weight thing. But
come on, you'll be fine.
I'm still heart and soul West Hancock Eagle, and it's just
and that brings me
very difficult when I do time to give it up, and I know Coach Hagen had a hard time with it here this last fall, with giving it up, but I have a feeling he's going to be back on the sideline too, but as a volunteer. But it's going to be tough when that time comes, but I've enjoyed every moment of it, and
definitely,
especially when your kids go through, Seth and Kobe, and Kobe worked hard for me too, and he might not have been the shining light that Seth was, but he was a hard worker and he was a good football player. And I'm looking forward to the daughter, now she's an athlete, a good student. So we'll see down the road, but enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So I'm looking at the other coaches that you guys have coached with. I might be missing a few. Paul Francis, Travis Hagen, like you said, Ryan Johnson, Mark Sanger, Kevin Eisman, and then obviously Coach Sanger and Coach Perkins. Pretty much all Britt guys, guys who had been in the program. And like I said to Seth the other day, I kind of want to take some time here and honor Coach Perkins. Obviously, Coach Sanger gets a lot of the limelight, which is obviously well-deserved. And Coach Perkins, it's not like he's shunned or doesn't get the recognition he deserves. He totally does. But at the same time, I think we don't realize just how good of a coach he was at the same time, just because he wasn't the head coach. So I wanted to, like Seth and I talked about, just take a few minutes here and talk some Coach Perkins. Just some background on Coach Perkins. He was a head coach in the 60s and 70s in Tripoli and Manila and I think one other school. But I actually coached golf with a guy from Panorama who was his defensive coordinator when he was in Tripoli. And so he had some good Coach Perkins stories, and some of them I can't tell on the podcast, but it was just kind of a cool connection. So Coach Perkins, if he were the head coach the years he coached at Britt, his record would have been 238-81. which would have been in like the top 15 all time in wins in Iowa history. 76 times he shut out his opponents, and besides those 76 shutouts, 88 other games he held his opponents to single-digit points. So if you add that up, that's 164 of his 236 wins. Teams didn't even hit double digits against us on offense when we were on defense. So what are some things you guys want to say about Coach Perkins and how great of a coach and a guy he was, and how he didn't like helmet throwing?
Both Coach Perkins and Coach are like your second dad, you know.
Mhm.
And I say that because I coached all these years, but even in high school, you know, there's just good, you know, they cared about you, you know, and I know Coach Perkins still cares about us, you know. Coach Sanger obviously did, you know, and I miss Coach Sanger. I miss all the talks that we've had outside of football. I know Coach Perkins, we've had a lot of talks too, and I feel bad that, and if Coach is going to watch this, I feel bad that I don't go and see him and talk to him like and I got to do that. It's just that's the problem. Life gets in the way, especially with the school and all the hours that I put in. I tend to have a tendency of not maybe talking to the people that I need to be talking to. And Coach Perkins is one of those guys, and he holds a special place in a lot of our hearts, and especially in my heart. You know, he's just a great coach, but he's also a great person, you know. And that's what that nucleus of West Hancock football and Britt football before that was. The coaches, you know, they're great people, and it made us good people as well, and they led by example, and that, you know, and that's huge, you know. And like I said, I miss him being as far as on the sidelines, and he does come to games and when he can, and you know, I remember him as a younger coach, obviously, when I played, and boy, you know, I wouldn't want to mess with him. He was, he's a big dude, you know. I think he was, you know, his hands are huge, you know. I just think about how he was probably a pretty darn good, like to have watched him play football.
Yeah.
Hear the stories, but
I was gonna do an episode with him,
you know.
And I looked into some of his old playing days, and I saw some articles and stuff, and they said the same thing. He was a good player. So great coach.
But no, I enjoy talking to him yet today. Saw him up at Funson's the other day, and I wish I would have talked to him more, but I got to stop down and see him and talk to him. But just a great person, and a great mentor, and a great coach, and just great memories, you know. And that's I'll let Seth add to that. But
I always remember him saying, make sure you bring your soup to moves Friday. I remember him saying that. But yeah, if you needed to talk to somebody, you know, he was always there. I remember we were going to be freshmen, and we went over to Coach Perkins' house, and we watched, I think it was me, Pat, Chris, and Nate Aitchison. We all went over to his basement, and we watched football film. And then he had us write down our birthdays, and he sent us a birthday card.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I remember doing that. I don't remember who won that year, but yeah, I mean, just some of the stuff he'd say, you know, you could always go talk to him, but yeah, he was kind of like another dad, you know. But,
yeah, and you guys are lucky. You got him for 4 years each. I only got him for one. He came back my senior year in 2004, and that when Coach Benning left. So yeah, I had 1 year with him, and I still have some good memories of him. And I was going to share one with you guys. It's him and Coach Sanger. I always had to use the bathroom before every practice and every game. That was just my thing. I'd get nervous, I'd get worked up, and I'd have to go to the bathroom. And one day I couldn't, and Jake Moore was my next door neighbor and played on the line right next to him, and he looked at me and he goes, "Have you gone to the bathroom yet? Practice is starting in like 10 minutes." I'm like, "No, I can't. I'm not feeling it." And he goes, You can't not go to the bathroom before practice, Dan." Like, everyone knew that was my weird thing. And so he's like, "Let's go." We go into that locker room where there's two stalls next to each other. We both sit down, and Jake is walking me through techniques on how to go to the bathroom. And he's just ridiculous stuff. And I finally went, and we open up the stall doors and we high five each other, and we turn to go out to practice. Coach Sanger and Coach Perkins are both standing right there with their arms crossed, giving us that look. You know, the Coach Sanger, like he caught you doing something stupid look.
Like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, and Coach Sanger shook his head and walked away, and Coach Perkins just grinned at us, that grin, and then he walked away as well. And Jake and I were like, I don't know how to feel right now. That was ridiculous. Like, what do you say after that? So yeah, but yeah, just little things like that always stick out to me for some reason. Just nothing major.
Practice one here, it wasn't not too long ago, and he comes up to me and he pulls a card out of his jacket. This is what, I mean, you can imagine what Coach Sanger will say back in the day, but Coach Perkins, he pulls this card out of the pocket and goes, come here, and he goes, read that card. And it had my name on there. He had the starting defensive lineup for whatever game, and he had it on the recipe card, you know, and he said that, and he still had that card and it looked like brand new yet. And
Yeah.
He'd found it in one of his coats or something. But that's awesome when when you got stuff, from that years ago, and he's probably got it from even before then, and
Yep.
that's just awesome. That's memorabilia,
Yep.
and to me, that's priceless.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Well, we're gonna wrap things up here. Real quick though, again, Kurt Kopachik came up with the idea to make some Coach Sanger cornhole or bags, whatever you call them, some boards. He had a company in Georgia that he works with make these boards. They're like $275, top of the line. They're the ones that your kid can jump on, and they're just fine. He donated them, and then we're gonna sell off raffle tickets for $5 each. And so far, we have 62 tickets sold, so about $310. That's going to all go to the Sanger Legacy Fund. So if you want a chance at these, I'm going to pull one up here on my computer. One is for track, one is for football. There's what it looks like. One is for football, like this one, and that one's track, actually. And field is spelled wrong. It was just a picture. They haven't actually made the boards yet. It's been fixed. But they're $5 tickets. If you want one of these, go ahead and you can Venmo me, or you can PayPal me, or you can send money to my home address, which is 1602 West Girard Avenue, Indianola, Iowa 50125, and it'll be on the write-up I have on YouTube. We're going to do that drawing in August, right before the 96 state championship anniversary episode, and draw that. So I'm hoping to sell couple $100 more worth of tickets. So I know you guys are gonna, as soon as we get off here, buy some tickets, right, and give to the Legacy Fund. But if you want some tickets, make sure you Venmo, PayPal, send it to my address, however you want to do it, to raise some money for the Legacy Fund. And again, thanks to Eric Kroll and Egg Performance for sponsoring this episode, and also to Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company for sponsoring and serving the communities of Britt and Kanawha and surrounding communities. Next up in a couple weeks, I have Nate Schreur, and then I have the 1980 girls basketball state championship team, Chad Trulson, Coach Chuck Buseman, Coach Russ King, who was the coach before Coach Sanger, Aaron Rasmussen, and then, like I said, the 96 state championship football team will be the week of the first football game this season. Rod Barkema, a little Kanawha episode, Ann Hagen, Brent Hagen, Jason Harle, Duane Cook, Rachel Leerar, David Smith, and Gene Guenther. And I'm actually working on an extra episode right now. I found possibly the oldest former still living Brit football player. He's 97 years old, and he wants to come on and do a short episode. So I'm working on getting all that set up. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you give to the Sanger Legacy Fund. Buy some raffle tickets. I still have some sponsors I'm looking for a couple episodes. And then a couple side notes. If you guys remember Bob Hilmer, he was the basketball coach at Forest City. He took a nasty spill, I guess, the other day, and has several months of rehab and rest and recovery. So I thought I'd mention that. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. And also Lynn Rasmussen, I guess, has been having a tough time. She's an avid West Hancock fan and listens to this podcast. So keep her in your prayers as well. So, all right, Goepels, thanks for coming on here. Any last things you guys want to throw out, or people you want to mention or anything before we sign off?
No, just appreciate everything that you're doing, Dan.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing Chad, old friend from school and player.
Mhm. Yeah.
Chad and Chuck, coach of Chuck too. So
Yep. I'm excited for
his
that.
son just is a senior this year, just graduated too. So
Yep.
the
We're going
time
to honor
flies.
Coach Fink in that episode a little bit too.
Awesome. Yeah,
That'll be great.
good.
So, yeah. Thanks again, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. Yep. Go
Thank you.
Eagles.